Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Easy Does It, a podcast created specifically for the amazing members of the MJ team. Rob and I are back with you again for another amazing episode. Today, our topic is multipliers.
We got a prop.
I know. I got to be Vanna White again.
That's usually my job.
I know. I'm sorry.
It's
Do you
okay.
want to do that with your hand? There you go.
There
Oh,
it
yours
is.
was better. It had a little more flair. So you might be wondering what the heck is a multiplier, which we will talk about. This episode may be a little bit different. We haven't done many episodes kind of just directed necessarily towards leadership or management, but this one might be a little bit more like that. But as I've gone through kind of preparing for today, I do think that there's a lot of ways this could apply to literally anyone.
Oh, yeah.
So I definitely think that we'll be able to make lots of connections. But before we get to that, I hear that the Would You Rather today is potentially heebie-jeebie inducing.
Yeah, guys, I don't really know. I've just had these moments lately where I start thinking about things. You get would you rathers or somebody says something like, oh, like it just gets you, right? And so this was one of those for me.
Okay.
All right. So in lieu of our conversation about dollars and toilets, which I feel like was our best discussion yet.
$100 bills and toilets.
100. I still think it's weird. But with this one here, would you rather walk barefoot in a bathroom at an airport
Oof.
or walk barefoot through poison ivy in the woods, like a bed of poison ivy?
I think I'm going to go with the bathroom.
Really? You have a whole thing with bathrooms. She's like, it doesn't faze you whatsoever.
I mean, I feel like the walking through the poison ivy is like, that's for sure going to be an issue.
Mm-hmm.
We're not walking out of that unscathed. But the bathroom, I mean, there's the potential like, okay, I get some pee, maybe a little bit of poop. I mean, this is the truth. And then we wash it off and it's all done. But poison ivy, that's lingering.
I need to ask you because I don't know if this is the case, but sometimes they say, and maybe it's wrong, they say that if you're not allergic to poison ivy or poison oak or whatever, like that you don't get it. Mm-hmm. Is that true?
I think so. So, but my parents are this way. One of them, I can't remember who's who. One of them is like, look at it and
You got it. Yeah.
it's, itchy and terrible. And the other one can be like work out in the yard all day long, no issues.
Yeah.
So it must be because they're both working in the same yard.
Yeah.
So it must be that way, maybe.
Yeah. There was a couple of times where when I was out and doing the military stuff, we would go out in the woods and there'd be a lot of it. And I don't think I'm allergic to it. I don't think I get it, but my wife can get it easily. But I think I would have to pick the poison ivy or poison oak. I can roll with that.
Oh, because you think nothing, you think.
I think I'll be all right.
Yeah.
We just went on a trip recently. We went to Europe and this is a recent experience for me of seeing what was going down in the bathrooms. It's just, nah, I'm good. I'm good. I tell you, there's all kinds of stuff on them floors in there. And you like walk in and you see it happen. And then someone walks in 5 seconds after you and didn't see it happen. And then there you go.
Yeah.
You're going to have to live with that one.
I know. Listen, I'm still going to stick with the bathroom, I think. And let's also be clear. I mean, we've covered this before. I don't want to be in the woods in general. So the reason why...
Okay, it's fair.
The reason why I don't know whether I'm allergic to poison oak or poison ivy...
You don't go out in the woods.
That's right.
Okay.
So I think I'm going to... Yeah.
All right, I'm going to have to adjust these from now on because I know all the woods questions. It's not going to be that.
It's immediate, no.
Period. Okay, fine. Mm-hmm. So we're talking about multipliers today.
Yeah.
Had you read this book prior?
I have not.
Okay, cool. So I heard Brandon Anderson, he talked about this book a couple times, and there's some of the stuff that he's kind of quoted, and then I've heard Mark talked about it and some different people, and I'm glad that we chose this one because I haven't finished fully reading the book yet. And so for all of you out there, this will probably be one of those ones where, it might be a two-parter as we go through this. We'll see how today goes. But so far, working maybe halfway, 3/4 of the way through the book, like there's so much good stuff and you don't need to finish reading it to be able to spit some of that goodness. So that's the intent of today. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to multipliers, I think we've all had experiences where we've come across somebody that just steps into a scenario or steps into a situation that they just amplify the results, not just of the situation, but also the people, primarily the people. And it was cool starting to read this and you're like, oh, I can picture this person. I've seen it in this scenario. And it's just really cool. So it'd be cool. I think we both decided it would be really cool to bring that to our people and be like, hey, here's some ways that you can too become a multiplier. And there's probably people out there and there's ways that you've already multiplied stuff. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited to go through this.
Me too.
Yeah.
All right. So should we start with?
What's a multiplier?
The usual.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So I have it down as a person. Most of the time we think in terms of managers or leaders, but like I said before, I don't think that's necessarily, I think you could think of this in all aspects, but it's someone who creates genius around them. They make everyone smarter and more capable.
Yeah.
So I think this connects, and I know this is maybe another book that we'll get to at some point. So when I first started reading this, it reminded me so much of First Break All the Rules. BT Dubs, these books are all in the library, of course. But First Break All the Rules, and I remember the first time I think I sat in a meeting with Dewey, and he talked about weaknesses. And it was the first time I had ever heard anybody talk about weaknesses the way that he did. So to keep it short and simple and very un-Dewey-like, he talked about how most people think that you get better by working on your weaknesses. Right. So if I'm not great at, let's just call a spade, conflict, for example, I'm the type of person where when I get engaged with conflict, my emotions get the best of me, likely going to cry. I can't remember anything good to say. It's like it all leaves my head. I'm never going to be great at that. Some people are wonderful at conflict. They get in there and they get sharp. Their mind gets sharp and they can bring things to mind. I can't do that.
Yeah.
And I'm never going to be great at that. So what conventional wisdom or what most people would think is like, okay, well, Meredith needs to read some books. She needs to go to some conferences. She needs to listen to some podcasts. Believe me, I've done all of that.
Yeah.
Work on that weakness, work on it every day. Come in and try and work on that weakness. And then when I heard Dewey say, who wants to do that?
She said, praise Jesus.
Yes, he has freed me. When he said that, I'm like, this makes so much sense. Yeah. Because who wants to come to work and work on their weakness every single day? It doesn't mean that we can just like let it ride. I do have to work on being able to engage in conflict because conflict is going to be a part of my life. But I need to lean into my strengths. I need to figure out ways to amplify my strengths and coming to work every day, getting to do what I'm good at, not working on what I'm terrible at. And so like me coming from the field of education to here is the perfect example.
Yeah.
Every single day, all I dealt with was conflict. Conflict with parents, conflict with students,
Lucky
conflict.
you.
Yeah. I mean, it was like, this happened on the bus. This happened in the cafeteria. You mean, it was all day, every day. I was immersed in the thing that I am the worst at. And so now looking back on it, I recognize why I was so unfulfilled in that job. And so switching gears and kind of looking at multipliers, it makes me think about what Dewey said, pouring into our strengths, letting people do what they do naturally well, and just shining a light on that and amplifying it, letting them feel capable. I think this book just ties so perfectly with kind of what we believe here at Morris-Jenkins and what Dewey taught.
Yeah. I do remember when Dewey used to talk about that. I legitimately struggled at the beginning when he's like, hey, you don't need to work on your weakness. And I just remember there were so many things when I was in the military, in the fitness world, when I was doing CrossFit. Like when you look at CrossFit, it was, you need to be really good at the stuff that you're good at, like be world-class, work on it. But then on the other side, the things you're not so good at, you need to fix that because it's a hole in your game. Because you want to, if you're going against 50 people, you need to be able to place, within the top 10 on the stuff that you're not so good at, or top 15, 20. and on average. And then on the stuff that you're good at, you need to be number one. So it averages out. And so I'm like, why wouldn't I work on my weakness? I need to be well-rounded at everything. And so for a little bit there, I was like, I'm going to still work on my weaknesses because I need to be good at that stuff. And then the longer I was here, the more I saw that what he was telling me was true. I'm a little hard-headed. I was like, I'm going to be a product of my own conclusion. I'm going to figure this one out. And then I figured out, I'm like, I'm not so good at some of that stuff. And I probably shouldn't spend all my time working on it because I'm only going to be a little bit better. But when I really started to focus on the stuff I was good at, it does, like this book talks about, it feels like breathing. It's something that's just so easy and effortless. And it's like, it shouldn't be that hard. Mm-hmm. But I'm glad that we've been exposed to that so we don't spend our time working on those things. And I like that this book talks about identifying those talents and really drawing that out of people and using their intelligence. I like how they call it intelligence. Mm-hmm. So it's really cool seeing when people focus on those good things like that.
Yeah, I think it is one of the things I wrote down and kind of also goes along with what Dewey taught is like this idea of assuming positive intent, or it maybe even not so much about assuming positive intent, but believing. I think part of this is really like a mindset shift. Is this the mindset of, which we'll talk about, the opposite of a multiplier, which is a diminisher. Right. So we'll talk about that as well. But it's believing that everybody is capable and smart. And I think that sometimes in the day-to-day, it's like, why can't they get this? Why? And maybe it is because we're asking people to work on the wrong things, maybe not asking them to work in that intelligence or whatever it is. But I think it really does take people thinking like, what is my mindset around my people, the people around me? Do I believe that everybody is smart and can figure it out? Or do I believe that everybody needs me, much like a diminisher does? Do I believe that everybody needs me in order to be able to get things done or accomplish things? I think that people really have to step back and think, how do I view the people that I either manage or even just the people on my team that I work with? Yeah. And kind of really do some self-reflection on that mindset piece.
Yeah. Yeah. So looking at multipliers, what is a multiplier? We've kind of defined that. One of my favorite things that it talks about with that is it was saying multipliers don't just use their intelligence to answer the questions of the departments or the finding solutions for things. They use their intelligence to extract the intelligence out of the people that are on their team, which I thought was really interesting. Usually you think, hey, you need to come to me for the answers. Hey, we need a decision to be made, Meredith. Like, what do you think we need to do here? We've said it before on here, like you could be the crack dealer and just give them the answer and they will keep coming back to you over and over again. But you end up being the bottleneck that all of that stuff comes back down to. And you are only able to, the company and organization is only allowed to move as fast as you can move because it all comes to you. But if you were to take that same person and say, well, what do you think? What are the solutions that you've come to the table with? What have you seen so far? Where should we go with this? A lot of times, you were just saying it yesterday, like they already come with their own thoughts and ideas on how we can fix it. And if you can encourage them and empower them to make that decision, it's like, good, go do it. Now you just taught them that they can come up with it on their own. And so I really like the idea of using your intelligence to extract the intelligence of the department. And if you're on a team and you have a bunch of people, there's a lot of intelligence on the team. What that intelligence looks like, I guess in here it talks about like their talents and whatnot. But to be able to extract that intelligence out of the group, it's like, hey, here's our solution. You frame it. Here's not the solution. This is the outcome that we're looking for. How can we get there? And your intelligence dives into, are you liberating the people? Are you really asking really, really good questions? Are you framing the problem properly? So that's where your intelligence and work can come in. But when you put that on the whole group, what they say, many hands make light work.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting how this book framed that. I really like it.
Mm-hmm. I wrote this quote. Woodrow Wilson said, "I not only use all the brains that I have, but all that I can borrow."
Yeah. Oh, I like that.
Yeah. So, which made me think of exactly what we're talking about here is that it's when you can just tap into what everybody else is good at. And I think kind of going back to what you were saying, a lot of times when people come to you looking for an answer or a solution, they already know. They're really just kind of looking either for affirmation or even sometimes sympathy. Like, this is a tough situation. I need some, can somebody just say, man, that stinks. What do you think we should do about this?
Right.
A lot of times people have already kind of thought about it.
Yeah.
So think about the trust that instills in people. You know, it's like, I trust you. Tell me what you think we should do. Okay. I think when you are the keeper or holder of all the information, of all the ideas, of all the everything, think of how that stifles people's creativity, their, innovation, the ideas they want to bring to the table. Mm-hmm. It just feels like everything has to come from one person.
Right.
And so, and how fun is that really for the manager either? It's like everything has to come from this one person. And so I do think it is, it's interesting to kind of reflect back on how you've been handling managers or anybody. It doesn't have to be just managers, but how have you been handling that conversation? When somebody comes to you and says, hey, what should we do? Do you immediately say, and hear me clearly say, 1,000% this is me, the crack dealer. This is also another reason why I couldn't stay in assistant principal mode, because I was being the crack dealer for kids, for teachers, I was doing it all for everybody. Mm-hmm. And so how have you been handling that conversation? Because everybody here probably deals with that conversation on some level pretty frequently, I would think. Yeah. Hey, what should we do about this? How have you been handling that? Have you been turning it right back and saying, I don't know, what do you think? If I weren't here, what would you do? Any of those things, just to start kind of digging in and seeing what does this person bring to the table? And if you don't ask those questions, then how, as a manager or a teammate, how do you ever get to know what the other person is good at or thinking of or what their ideas are? Yeah. I just think that opens up the conversation for so much more.
Yeah, as you were saying that, I was thinking the other side of that is maybe those of you out there are like, hey, I'm going to try this multiplier thing by the end of this episode. Hopefully you do. But pay attention if you ask someone, hey, what do you think we should do in this case? And they look at you and they're like, oh, I don't know. Like, they haven't thought about it at all. I think that's a good sign that you've been the crack dealer.
Yeah.
That says a lot about the individual too, that they haven't been putting in a lot of thought. And I think always the good place is to start of like, I haven't encouraged them enough. I haven't, put the steps in place. I haven't done my part to help them think and cultivate. And hopefully you are the type of manager that you are putting things on your people's shoulders of like, hey, we're all a team figuring this thing out. Mm-hmm. I think when you have the directive of like, hey, take care of our customers, make it easy for them, live our core values out there, that's our direction. I really think that the manager, director, whoever, you're pointing in the direction of what's our main goal here. I want to make it as easy as I can for my customers to do business with us, live our core values, go out there and do your thing, be amazing, create great value out there. So if you're ever unsure where you need to go, just live in that direction. But if they're coming to you like, hey, I've got this thought, hey, what do you think we should do in this case? You know what our directives here are. What do you think we should do? And I can guarantee you they have a thought and idea. Where your intelligence comes in is if they say something that may not be on the right path, then using your intelligence to question them back. Don't tell them the answer. Help them come up with it on their own and direct them back. And that's where your intelligence and your own genius can come in your own way. I know it looks all a little bit different with everybody, but I like the statement that they said in there. I think it really puts the onus back on your people and the people around you. It says that people are smart. I think you kind of already said this. People are smart and will figure things out on their own, which in turn increases their intelligence. You're putting that pressure on the individual to use their own intelligence and figure things out. And as they figure it out, they get smarter, they get better, and then they start coming to you with, hey, I think we should do this in this scenario. And then you're like, cool, man, go get it done. I was told a long time ago, if you're ever unsure what you need to do, especially in a management role, those of you that are supervisors, managers, directors out there, I think it's great to put the onus back on the individual and say, hey, what do you think we should do here? and saying, hey, go get it done. But not every idea they come to you is going to be how you plan to do it. But if their decision is in their own creativity and they can figure it out and maybe it still gets the end game result, you have to make the determination of, I'm going to let them do it in their own way. And it may not be how I was going to do it, but that is absolutely okay because it gets us our end result. You can move faster, they can move faster, and they feel so proud of themselves for figuring it out. The question comes in of when do I allow them to do it, even if I know they might fail? Mm. That's a challenging piece. Mm-hmm. What I was told a long time ago, is it detrimental to the business? Mm. Is it truly going to be detrimental to our in-game directive? And if it is, you might need to guide a little bit more. If not, let it ride. Yeah. See how it goes.
Yeah, I wrote down a couple things as you were talking there. So I think one thing, too, that I've learned over just podcast, all the things, is when we put things back on other people, like, well, what do you think we should do? And they give us a solution and we say, okay, let's do it. There is a responsibility, right? That person then feels responsible for the outcome because they're the one that came up with the solution. And so people tend to, which this goes back to what multipliers, I don't know if we said this or not, but what's the deal about multipliers? Like, why is it even that big of a deal? So in Liz Wiseman, she's got a lot of great podcasts out there too. And I love listening to her because she's kind of just like real. She talks about her kids. I wrote a couple things down about what she talks about with her kids. But so what's even the big deal about being a multiplier? And so the big deal is that multipliers get 2 times the results of their counterparts who are diminishers. They get less than 50% of what people are capable of.
What did you think about that stat when you read it for the first time?
Less than 50%? That's terrible.
I was flipping. I'm like, well, now what is a diminisher again? Hopefully I'm not doing that. That's scary numbers. Half of people's capacity.
Yeah.
If you're in
less
the
than
diminisher
half.
zone. Yeah.
Less than half. You're getting less than half of people's capability if you are a diminisher, or you're leading or being a teammate in a way that is diminishing. Yeah. And that is just like, whoa. So if we have everybody sitting around the table in a team and we're only getting less than 50%, think of how things would look if we were getting 2 times what those people are capable of. Mm-hmm. That's crazy. Mm-hmm. And people around multipliers feel like winners. They're inspired to give 100% of their effort, sometimes above and beyond that. So going back to this idea of responsibility is when people feel like, they have the leeway, they have the trust, then they take responsibility for the outcome and then they carry it through. When the leader, the manager, when they are the person who's making all the decisions, they carry all the responsibility, which is stressful as hell, right? I mean, like, who wants to be the person who holds on to all of that all the time? Yeah. But I can also see the flip side. So when you were saying, like, doing things a certain way, so if somebody comes to me and they say, I don't know, whatever, how should I plan this class? This is what I thought about doing. Well, so I have an idea in my mind about how the class should go. I have a really hard time of not trying to like steer it to my way.
Yeah.
And I think that that's probably the case for a lot of people. It's like, I know the right way to do it. You just listen to me and do what I say. Mm-hmm. That's hard. So I can totally see, and when we talk about diminishers, we'll talk about accidental diminishers. It's like we're not trying to do it, but we do it anyway. Yeah. And so I can see how it's hard not to give people like, okay, this is what you need to do. You need to do X, you need to do Y, you need to do Z, and be perfect. But then that person still is not feeling responsibility for that because they're doing it like I said to do it.
Yeah.
And so I think that this responsibility piece is a big piece of this, is when you give people the autonomy and the trust to do it right. And then going back to what if it flops? A lot of the things that I kind of read here about becoming a multiplier is if it's not to the detriment of whatever's going on, the multiplier usually lets it fail. And then I think what they called it was a quick turnaround from a failure.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, let's learn from this mistake. Let's talk through what went wrong. Let's move on to the next piece. So that's hard for me to do as well. It's hard for me to stand back and watch people fail.
Yeah.
And so I think in that way, sometimes I can be a diminisher because I want to rescue. I want to make sure that everything goes right, when sometimes people just need to fail because they'll learn a lot from the failure.
Well, I mean, I think we all have a element of, you want to be kind and be like, I don't want you to fail. I don't think anybody just wants, unless you're just mean. Like, I don't want nobody to fail. But at the same time, you can see where this is going sometimes. And so I think that really super smart questioning comes in to help guide them towards whatever path. But I don't know about you. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe I'm off the path here, but sometimes you let them do it and it turns out like they saw it and it turned out better than what advice you had. And you're like, I'll shut my mouth. That was pretty good. Mm-hmm. So letting that genius unfold is important. Something you were saying earlier that I wrote down was after you let them go and do the thing, the follow-up is important afterwards. Let's debrief. How did that go? What are your thoughts? What would you change? Putting that fully in their hands, letting them reflect on themselves, and you're teaching them that skill. And so the next time things come up and things didn't go so well, then you can say, hey, last time this is the result. You said you were going to change these things. How does that stuff attach to this? What does it look like to maybe make those tweaks this time? And then you can offer and guide now that you've kind of seen that capacity and capability. So that's another piece. We talk about check, plan, do all the time, but you can check, plan, do with people too. Mm-hmm. Hey, here's the plan. We need to, or check, we need to plan it. We're going to go do it and then go back and recheck, make sure the process is working. Or in this case with a person, it's follow up. Did everything turn out the way that you wanted it to? What would you change? And then let's replan the next time and then let's go get after it and just do it again. Maybe you find that the thing that they're doing isn't in their intelligence. It's not that thing that might be a talent for them. You're learning with that, or maybe it just needs to be cultivated further. And I love how it talks about in talents in here. And it's like, you got to identify it. I think they talked about like supersizing the talent and all that stuff, supersizing it to where it's, what does it look like at maximum capacity? But talents are not always just like, oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you got to fish for it and they truly have to see it themselves. I like how it talked about labeling.
Mm-hmm. Naming it.
Yeah. Naming it.
Yeah. Because they talk about that in First Break All the Rules as well, is like a lot of people, it goes back to like, if I just put somebody on the spot, tell me your strengths. You're like, can I have a few, at least I am like, can I have a few minutes? There's a couple I can probably spout off, just off the top of my mind, but I would need to think about that. And if you think about it, some people have probably never even been exposed to the word talent, right? Or intelligence in this way, because we're using that term differently than probably people are used to using it.
Yeah.
So I do think that's important for people to say, you know what I really notice about you is that you do X. Yeah. Have you ever noticed that? Tell me about what that looks like for you. It's people don't recognize that in a way that they can always notice that it's a talent. So I think naming it, supersizing it. Mm-hmm. I like the idea they had about like give people a project or something that feels just out of reach, and let them go after it. Let them go get it and see how that looks. Because if you have a multiplier as your boss, then that person is going to support you through that. They're going to have high expectations, but they're also going to trust that you can get it done. Yeah. And I love that idea. That too ties with First Break All the Rules. Oh, maybe she undercover.
Could be.
They wrote the book together.
There were a lot of things in there that correlate.
Yeah, like this idea of setting an outcome and then letting everybody get to the outcome in the way that feels right to them, that utilizes their talents. So let's say the outcome is to teach a class on whatever. You're going to teach a class to a small group on this. This other person is going to teach a small group. All three small groups might look completely different depending upon what strengths everybody brings to the table. But at the end of the day, the outcome is still satisfied. And so I think that is sometimes hard going back to even myself, it is hard to say they can all look completely different, but we accomplish the same thing.
Right.
Because in my mind, it feels like everybody just follow my lesson plan and we'll all be good. But it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah.
Let everybody work within what feels right and what kind of speaks to them as their talent, what they do naturally. If the outcome is the same, then just let the outcome be what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I like, I like that when you're putting that in someone else's court, they're thinking through in their own way that's unique to them, and it creates a result that you never could have created. It's still right within the parameters that we've defined, but then it's still uniquely them.
Mm-hmm.
And then the pride that goes along with that and the confidence that it brings for that individual is something that they've created for themselves.
Yep.
That is exponential. I like it talks about addition and talks about multiplication in here. And so understanding that multipliers, you are multiplying results. It's not addition like 1 + 1. We're talking about 2, 3 times. Mm-hmm. If I can get 2 times the amount out of someone, and they're facilitating a lot of that on their own, you're creating something like you're almost lighting a fire and you're let it go. Or like it's almost like a fire and forget missile, like go get it done, right? I think it would be good as we talk through this, because I do want to talk about diminishers today, but I think it's important to kind of lay out maybe what some ideas of multipliers. I think she, what did she call them? It was disciplines of a multiplier. Mm-hmm. And so they talk about these areas, but I guess, am I reading into it? It's almost like they're like not talents, but almost like talents of a multiplier.
Yeah.
Something that somebody
things
could
they
do.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So multipliers, the different areas, you can be a talent magnet. I like the idea of the liberator. I thought that was really cool. Challengers, which immediately when I read that chapter, I was like, man, there's some people I know without a shadow of a doubt are natural challengers. You have debate makers, and then you have investors. And so for our audience out there, if you can kind of picture having, 2 columns, you've got one that are all these things for the multiplier, but then on the other side, you have diminishers that are basically what that looks like, but you're not multiplying people's talents and intelligence. You're actually diminishing that. So I think with what we talk about today, we can talk about diminishers and then maybe hit on a couple of the multipliers, because I think maybe if this ends up being 2 parts, because there's a lot in this book, then we can talk more about those other multiplier traits. But so those are the ideas of multipliers. So when we look at the other side, like diminishers, what were some of the, I know we read the same thing, but what were some of the things that stood out to you with people that maybe diminish people's intelligence?
Yeah, I think it kind of, to me, boils down to, I didn't really have a definition. What? Gasp. But really what I put for diminishers was they kind of squash other people's ideas, and people eventually kind of shut down or quit. Yeah. They kind of hold all of the cards themselves. It's the type of, and here's the thing, I think that we've all worked for, Morris-Jenkins or not, we've all worked for people who are multipliers, and we've all worked for people who are diminishers. And it's like, when I think of a diminisher, I think of the traditional sense of a boss. Yeah.
It's like the stuff you see on TV all the time.
Yeah. It's like, I have all the answers. I'll take all the glory. And everything flows through me because I'm the boss. That's kind of how, that's not what I wrote down.
It's like that movie Office Space. Yeah. Like the guy with the coffee cup. Did you read the TPS? Yes, I read the TPS reports. Okay, so they just came out. Like that's what I envision with one of those guys.
Yes, it is. It's like the quintessential boss is kind of what I think of when I think of a diminisher. They think that people can't figure things out on their own. They have to, like he does about the memo. He reminds them like 19 times
over and over
about the memo.
Yeah.
And so I think when I think of a diminisher, I think of somebody who maybe micromanages. And when they micromanage, meaning really they don't, to me, micromanaging comes down to a lack of trust or a need for control. If we're talking about on the boss's side. And so it's like, this is the person who checks up after every single thing. Did you do this? Did you do this? I mean, that's exhausting, number one.
Yep.
And number two, what it teaches your people is that you don't trust them to do the work. And it could be that it has nothing to do with you. I did take that away from it. It could be that it has nothing to do with you, the employee, and it has everything to do with your manager and their own hang-ups about whatever they, whatever. Or it could be even, I thought about disc styles. I think it could even be part of that as well. So I do think when I think of diminishers, I think of people who are, kind of micromanagers. All decisions have to come from them. It's their way or the highway, kind of like that sort of thing.
I did have a definition.
Oh my goodness, what a turn of events.
Look at that. So diminishers, they're leaders who, there's a typo on that page. The diminishers are leaders who are so absorbed in their own genius that they stifle others, thus depleting the organization's vital and intellectual resources. I love that it says intellectual resources, and it's not the stuff in the organization, it's the people. And so I didn't really think about it before, that it's more of a reflection not of the individual, but of the person, of the manager. If you're diminishing people's capacity, their intellectual resource. And so why would you need to come check in on people all the time? Why would you want to come micromanage and have your hands in everything? Why would you need to make the decisions for other people? It really reflects back on the individual if you're not allowing others to figure things out on your own. Sometimes you might just not know any better. I think so much of our management journey or time in organizations or businesses, in the school system, wherever you are in any department, it's a lot of times we learn from our managers of this is the way that it should be. And we don't know any better until you get to a place like this. And it's like, we do things differently here. I do trust you with that. I want you to make the decision and not come to me. I remember Brandon said a long time ago to me and Mark when we were supervisors, he says, I expect and want you guys to come take my job. I'm training you guys to take my job. And me and Mark just looked at each other. I was like, you hear that? Who's going to get it first? And he says, but you're going to have to catch me. Like, good luck. Me and him were like, let's go. Right. And so I think when you have individuals working to grow and expand as fast as they can and be the best that they can, there's a lot of responsibility that comes with that. I do remember it was just kind of a funny story. Me and Mark, Brandon, I mean, he was always fantastic, but he always challenged you a lot. And he would ask you questions just to kind of see where you're at and have you thought about this? And it was one weekend he was going on vacation, which at the time did not happen a whole lot. And if he did, he was always phones in my pocket if you need me, and he would check in and whatever. We'd been, management for a little bit, and then he's like, hey, I'm going on vacation. We're like, good for you, man. It's going to be a good time. What did you need from us? He goes, I'm not going to check my phone this weekend. The success or failure of the organization relies on you guys. So you probably need to check the capacity, look at the weather. Do we have enough people working? All those things. So you guys figure it out. I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah. And so, I think only one of us was working that weekend, but both of us were working that weekend. And it's like, we're not going to fail this. But imagine the amount of intellectual resource that just became instantly on tap. And it's like, I'm not going to fail that. Dadgummit, I will die. I will die this weekend to make sure that we ain't going to fail. But what does that look like? Are we trusting our people with things like that? And coming in on Monday, Brandon walks in on Monday. How did the weekend go? Now, I don't know if he actually checked anything. I feel like maybe he did, but he didn't help us. We had to figure it all out on our own. And so I think as a manager, whatever, department our listeners are in, it's, hey, how am I truly tapping into those resources? Am I truly trusting the people? Because at the end of the day, you can't make all the decisions. I know we just had our Tech Builder graduation, which was awesome. Shout out to everybody that was involved in that. It was awesome. Good to see that whole graduation, and shout out to our tech builders that just graduated that. Well, what? You guys are hitting the field. I can't wait. It's cool getting to meet everybody's families. But the discussion was had at the beginning of it. It all was like, hey, did you guys get our 950 page resource manual, like on what to do in every scenario. And he's like, there ain't one. It is live our core values and take care of our customers. You guys have the training you need, and it's expected that you're going to continue to grow. But our rule manual is really small. It's, I need you to go out there and here's our directives. We trust you guys. We hired you for your character, not anything else except for your character. And we gave you the skill. Now it's time to go execute. And so that's cool knowing that you guys trust me, but we got to be able to trust our people. If you're making decisions for people, it talks a lot about your trust. So what does it look like to take that little baby step?
Yeah, they talk about the sense of remote control. In First Break All the Rules, it's, managers may think they have control, but really what they have is remote control.
Yes. Because
at the end of the day, we're not out there, forward facing with our customers. And so we're trusting that they're going to make the right decisions. And so I think a multiplier has already is at peace with that. They're at peace with the fact that I will not be able to control every single thing that happens in every customer's home. So let me invest the time and resources that I have in making this person that I'm sending out into a customer's home the very best that they can be.
Yeah.
So that in that moment, they are making decisions that are to the benefit of the customer. They don't have to call and say, hey, what should I do? Because the answer, and I hear this conversation happening. I hear people saying, what would be right for the customer? That's the question that people get asked back, and we trust people to be able to navigate that and do that. I do think something that you said, I don't remember what it was, but I wrote this down. It must have been really important. But I do think there has to also be, for a multiplier, there has to be kind of this either, I don't know if it's a mindset or it has to be okay for the people around you to get the accolades, to get the praise, to get you have to be okay. I don't know if it's humble. Is it humble? I don't know if that's the right word. I don't know exactly what word I'm looking for here, but if you have to be okay with everybody on your team, it not falling, all the praise not coming back to you.
Right.
So I do think that some people probably struggle with that. It's like they want to be like, oh, this went really great in this department. Everything goes back to the manager. When people who are multipliers, it's okay. They want everybody on their team to get the kudos, to get the praise, to get the celebration. And they're okay with that. Yeah. It doesn't have to come back to them.
I think it was in the book, it said that as a manager, a multiplier, I think it would be both. Because I was going to say, maybe you're not a manager and it's like, am I going to get the accolades? Well, if you're the one doing the work, then typically that would be the case. But if you manage a team out there, it was saying something like, you have to be okay not being the magnet that everybody revolves around and getting the accolades. It's putting others as the center of attention. It talked about you're no longer the center of gravity. It's the people. So you have to be okay orbiting the outside and not getting the accolades and praise, because if you get it and the person's not getting it, then what's incentive do they have to continue doing that? So if it's them, then it's like, okay, I feel good. It was your idea. You did it. They should get the praise. If you extracted the intelligence out of them, cool. That's your job. That's what you should be doing, but they should get the praise for it. They're the ones that did the work. If you're doing all the work, then it becomes what Dewey used to say all the time. You're the genius. Jesus. You're it could be that too. You're the genius with 1,000 helpers.
Yeah.
So no one wants to be that. I don't need to be the center of all that, where everybody comes to me for the answer. Put it back on the people.
Yeah, I do. That is one thing I do really appreciate about our team. I feel like I can come up with a handful of instances when somebody's like, I appreciate you telling me good job, but that was really Rob that did that. Or I appreciate you telling me that, but probably you should go tell Meredith. I do really appreciate the fact that we're quick to put off or push the celebration or the praise off to the right person.
Right.
We will own mistakes as a team, but we are quick to push off, like, if it's your contribution, then you deserve the praise. I I do appreciate that. And we'll do it in front of each other, which I think is even better.
Yeah.
What it says is we value each other as teammates.
Right.
And I think that feels good from a teammate perspective to hear someone else on the team say that.
Yeah. We have a really good team. I know we have our new team member. Oh, Alan.
Yeah. Congrats, Alan.
Yeah. Welcome to the team. I'm really excited to see what he's going to bring to the table. I just asked him today. I was like, "So how's everything been going so far?" He's like, "Well, man, it's been good. First day I started setting up my desk, and then it was just like, you got all these things to get done. Here's all this stuff." I'm like, "Welcome to the team. Welcome. This is what it's going to be like."
Yeah.
But putting all that stuff back into perspective, having a good team where that happens is great because then it motivates everybody. But I do think, looking at multipliers, I think it would be cool looking at what are the things that I need to be mindful of if there are the other side of this, the diminisher side. I think it'd be cool if we maybe labeled a couple of those for people and talked about those, and then depending on how much time we have, we can hit a couple of the multiplying side. But now I think there was five diminishing qualities that somebody can have. I'll hit one. The first one that I thought was interesting, which may not always be the case for people, but it can happen, is the empire builder, which is someone that tries to acquire resources or talent. And it's almost like you have, the star team. Like you got all the good people on your team and you just like hoard all those resources and everything and you keep it for yourself, and it's for nothing else but to be like, look at my team. Like look at these people. And I don't know that I necessarily see that often here, but it's definitely something that you have to be mindful of, like extracting. Maybe it's people, but maybe it's resources. I mean, I do sometimes see that with, Lord bless our IT team. Like there's so much stuff they have going on right now. And I know that Service Titan went flawlessly for everyone and everyone loves it. It's going great. That wasn't an easy change for an organization, but it was absolutely a necessary one. But what happens with all that is it all funnels back to, hey, we need these changes and IT needs to be used. But that's a really important resource. Are we being mindful of that resource when we're asking for things? Are we thinking about others in that case?
Yeah, I think the empire, I agree. I don't see a whole lot of that here. Should I do the opposite of it?
Sure.
Okay, I'll do that. I don't see a lot necessarily of that. I do think that we try and like share the resources with, I think about things that are not necessarily, so I'll use licensing as an example. So somehow or another, I'm thinking it might be my talent for organization. It's just, excuse me. So we have a lot of people, more than anybody in the state of North Carolina, licensed here. And so I kind of help navigate that because the back end process of doing that is like, it's just a nightmare. So I don't know that that's necessarily falls under my roles and responsibilities in this role, but the fact of the matter is I'm good at organizing things. I'm good at like walking people through the different steps and helping them navigate a process. So why would Shallon hoard me or that talent of being able to organize things like that and not share that with the departments that need people licensed? To me, that's like kind of an example of what that might look like. Is like, I'm sorry, Meredith doesn't have time to do that. She can't help other departments with that because she's too busy doing these other things. Yeah. So I think that's an example of like, okay, we have this capability. Let's open that up and let other people utilize it as needed.
Right.
So the opposite of that, if you're a multiplier, the behavior or the discipline is a talent magnet. They hire talented people. They develop them fully. People thrive underneath them. People want to work for these people because they see people kind of growing and developing underneath them. And so, they value all types of talents. It's not like I'm just looking for this or I'm just looking for this or that. They can see how anybody could contribute. And so that's the difference. An empire builder who's kind of hoarding and growing the dream team, but not really supporting or helping the dream team flourish, or you have the multiplier who is the talent magnet. People want to work for them because they know they're going to grow and develop under them.
Yeah. Somebody, those of you that do any type of hiring out there here at MJ, a fantastic class you should go attend is our Art of Interviewing class led by the one and only Mark Cagle. That's been on here before. Man, I have learned a ton just sitting in interviews with him. It's very interesting hearing the questions he asks, but then also how he sees through, people give surface level answers. If you ask a crummy question, you get a crummy answer. But even with crummy answers, he's asking all kinds of questions that dive deeper. Where does that come from? What do you mean by that? Can you give me an example? How does that show up for you? Like, he just is so good at asking those questions and trying to figure out the talent in people. He was yesterday. He was at. I know you saw him. I thought it was phenomenal when we were at the Tech Builder graduation, and he's like, "All right, we have our new graduates, and I did interviews with all of you. I think he said half of them actually." And he says, "Hey, what do you remember from our interview?" And he's like, "Oh my gosh." He's like, "Was it easy?" He goes, "Absolutely not. It was like psychological warfare." And he asked one of the Tech Builder graduates, he said, "What did you learn in yours?" And he said, without even skipping a beat, it was the 80-20 rule. And I learned why what I was bringing to the table at my organization wasn't truly working. Mm-hmm. And he explained that. I mean, to have somebody in an interview teach somebody a valuable lesson in life, that's huge. Mm-hmm. That's a great example of a talent magnet, someone that's attracting good talent. I mean, if the Tech Builder hadn't picked up on that and was like, "Okay, thanks, man. Thanks, bro, for teaching me that," then it's like, okay, good. I know what what we're looking for, and you're trying to extract that stuff. So I think it's important having good people that ask really good questions, and attracting solid talent is not an easy feat, but it absolutely is a multiplying thing. I know Dewey used to say in the past, he's like, when you're doing interviews, you are the gatekeeper for the organization. If you allow individuals to come into the organization, don't share our values, don't believe in what we're doing here, it destroys the organization. It's like on Survivor. You don't want to have the wrong people on your team. We trying to survive, dadgummit.
That's right.
So being that gatekeeper, making sure that you're keeping the wrong people out and getting the right people in the door, it is not easy. It takes practice. I would encourage everybody, if you're trying to find people to learn from, sit in interviews. Try to experience what the greatest interviewers here have, what they bring to the table, so you can bring that to your own repertoire.
Can I do the next one?
Yes.
Because it's my favorite.
Let's do it.
Okay. It is under multipliers. I'll start with multipliers on this time to really make this confusing. So the second one, which I really loved about multipliers, is they're liberators. Yeah. And I like this one so much because I feel like sometimes when we think multipliers, we might have this picture in our head of like sunshine, butterflies, everything on this team with this leader is always fantastic. And then diminishers, we kind of might think of like, I don't know what I'm trying. I want to do some sound effects, but
Oh, you go right ahead. Please do. Maybe we can get old Corey over here to.
So I don't know. Like, I feel like when we hear the word diminisher, it's like rah, like the boss that's like on you and blah, and that kind of thing. And I think that's not necessarily how it is at all. So the reason why that comes up for me with this one when it talks about liberators is because it talks about how a multiplier that is a liberator or has the behavior of liberating their people, they create an intense environment. And so to me, that was kind of like, wait, what? Because when I'm thinking of a multiplier, I'm thinking like, yeah, we're all like synergy and that kind of thing. But when you read this, it's like a multiplier who is liberating, they create this intense environment because they have high expectations and they expect people's best performance. Yeah. And so there is an intensity to the environment, but I think she also talked about maybe in one of the podcasts where it's like it's intense, but it's not stressful.
Right.
And she talked about how those two things are different. When you expect people's best and you expect their best performance, then more than likely that's what you're going to get. But you're also at the same time supporting them, trusting them, asking good questions, helping them come to their own conclusions. So I told Shallon this morning, this is what I think she does really well. I think this is one of the things she does such a good job of, is because she creates a space where we are expected to do the best work. The expectations are high in our department. But at the same time, there's also a space to be creative. There's a space to tap into my own talents. There's a space to say what I need to say. There is a space to ask for help when I need it. And so I think there's just this really interesting dynamic when you liberate people. You hold them to high expectations and their best performance, but you also create this space that's so supportive of that work.
Yeah.
To me, that's just like, I don't know if I just thrive in that environment, or that to me was like, this is key for me, I think, when it comes to the multiplying.
I was just about to ask, like, how did you interpret stressful versus intense? I mean, I feel like you just hit the nail on the head describing what that looks like. Because even when I read that, I'm like, how do you stressful, intense? I feel like they just go hand in hand and they're the same. But when you look at that, Shallon does a really good job. Even when it is stressful and a lot's going on, she's not like, this is never going to work. Like, I don't even know what we're going to do here, guys. She comes to the table with solutions, or even better, she'll come to the table with really good questions. Mm-hmm. What do you guys think about this? Hey, this is what's on tap. She always says, this is what's on tap. Yeah. This is what needs to be done. And using the team's intelligence to figure out how are we going to solve this particular problem. I don't know how many times, usually I'm not one where I come to the table where I'm like, hey, I can't teach surface system this week, or, hey, this and this has come up. But sometimes it does. And coming up with ideas, Ethan stepped in, which was a huge help, and taught the class. That don't happen very much, but it's like, what are we going to do in this case? Great questions, she asked. And thinking about, how do we solve? We've got Build a Plumber and Tech Builder are overlapping in the same week. How are we going to figure this out? Instead of, we're going to cancel the class, or shift it, or what are we going to do here? I don't even know. Pulling your hair out. I've heard this before in the past too, that your people are looking to you to see how you as the manager are handling the situation. And if you're freaking out, they're freaking out. Mm-hmm. Like if you think about the Titanic, like with the ships going down, but if the captain's like, we're all gonna die, like, or whatever the situation is, like everybody's freaking out way earlier than they need to, instead of coming to the table, hey, I need you to get on the boat. Like it's time to get on the boats. Here's how it's gonna go. I'm taking women and children. This is what we're gonna do.
Yep.
The organization may not be going in the direction that you want it to. Everybody's looking to you to see, how are we going to fix this? What do you think that we should do? And instead of being like, here's the answer, guys. Hey, guys, this is what the end game is going to be. How do you think we need to do this? Mm-hmm. And so I think it's really important. That's another thing. It wasn't necessarily in this, but stuff that I've learned is, hey, they look to you.
Mm-hmm. You're on stage.
All the time.
Every day.
If you ever think that you're not, you're wrong.
Mm-hmm. Like it's like a parent. So they're always watching.
Yeah.
They're always watching.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to do the flip side of this one.
Okay.
And then maybe we'll have to pause on the rest for another time.
Do we have a part 2? It sounds like we got a part 2 coming.
Okay. So
this is a big book. We've only talked about 2.
Okay. I told Rob beforehand that I didn't think I could do 2 parts, but clearly I can. Because I mean, talking. Okay. So the flip side of a liberator is a tyrant. This does feel like going back to my sound effects.
This is not Office Space. This is something else.
I don't know if we have the raw sound. So on the flip side of a liberator is a diminisher who is a tyrant. And this is a person who creates a tensed, notice there's a difference, intense and a tensed environment because they kind of control or they make people question their ability to be able to perform. I mean, this goes back to everything we were already talking about. If you've been asking like, hey, how do you think we should handle this? And you're letting them take ownership of that. Well, you've already said, I trust you. So now if you haven't been doing those things, then you've been implying the whole time, I don't trust you to make the decision.
Yeah.
So a tyrant, they cause people to act cautiously, to not speak up, to feel anxious or stressed, because in the end, they don't feel trusted to use their own intelligence to make the right choices. So when I'm looking at these two things, the liberator and the tyrant, I think those two things are really interesting to compare an intense environment of high performance and a tensed environment of like controlled performance is kind of how I see those two things being the opposite of one another.
Yeah. I think the only thing I'll add to that, and then we'll kind of bring this thing in for a landing for this so far. I also think about the tyrant piece is how you hold accountability for your people. So maybe you say that, hey, I trust you to make a decision, but then the accountability on the other side, we said earlier, you need to follow up with the people. What does that follow-up look like, and how are you holding the accountability? Is it a trusting accountability, or is it like, dude, you jack that up? Or are you giving them the sandwich? Hey, you're amazing, but you suck, but you're amazing. Are you giving them the sandwich? I just saw a video this week, and I know that managerial doctrine may not be the same in all places, but he's like, oh, I give everyone the sandwich. It's amazing. It's the best feedback you can give. And I used to think that was the right thing until I got here. And then I'm like, oh, it's not. So how are you handling that accountability for your people after the fact? I can guarantee you if they failed, they're probably pretty hard on themselves already. How can you be constructive in that way?
Yeah.
So I think with all this stuff, the one story that stood out to me, and I think this will be the final thing for everyone to think about today, was in the book, it talked about Magic Johnson. I just love this story. I didn't really do a ton of research, but just reading how he was on the team, I guess when he was younger, he was obviously a talented basketball player. And when he said that they always were like, anytime you get the ball, give it to Magic and he's going to make his shot. And he scored, I don't know, it was like 50 points. He scored 48 out of the 50 or whatever it was. And he felt so good about himself, and the team was winning and all this stuff. They went on to win championships. But then he said in one game at the end, he saw the parents and the kids walking out and they looked like they were defeated. And it was because the parents came to watch the kids play. And I guess that impacted him so much that it's, all right, I want to be a good team player. And so from the book, it was just talking about every team that he got put on past that, he made talented people on his team elevate. He elevated everyone on the team. No matter what team he was on, he elevated everybody. And that's where he really got his name, Magic Johnson. And so how can all of us, whether you're a manager, I feel like this story really fits, whether it be you're a manager, but even more importantly, you're not a manager. Are you a multiplier on your teams? Are you stepping up to the plate saying that, hey, no matter what team I'm on, if I'm just a tech, how am I making my fellow techs better? If I'm on support services, I'm in the warehouse, I'm in purchasing, I'm in dispatch, I'm working at the front desk. Shout out to Katie. How am I multiplying people in the organization? Abigail in HR, how am I multiplying people in the organization, even if it's something small? I think all that stuff makes just a massive difference out there. And I mean, may we all be Magics out there, right?
Yep.
So thinking about today, just recapping all this stuff, we know that there's multipliers out there. We know that multipliers, they step up to the plate and they amplify the performance of the people out there. Not just less than half are diminishers, but taking 2 times the amount of performance out of people. So when we think about being a multiplier, how am I extracting the intelligence out of the people that are around me and elevating performance, elevating the organization? We listed just a couple of those different multipliers out there. Are you a talent magnet? And then we also talked about being a liberator briefly. And so if you want more information, Multipliers, I think there's 2 copies. That's one of them right there. I'm still reading it. I'll give it to you soon. But are you a multiplier or are you a diminisher on the other side? So next time, when we talk about multipliers, which I think will be in 2 episodes, we'll talk about the rest of them because there's 3 more that you need to know about. In the meantime, in between that, we've got a little something for you guys. So I think it'll be a cool interview. So stay tuned.
Yes. Yeah, I would leave everybody with just one question. This was my favorite question. I don't know if it came from the book or the podcast, but it is, can people play their biggest around me? So going from the Magic Johnson and asking yourself that question, do I allow people to play their biggest around me? And seeing what your initial answer is to that question. I think that'd be a good way to do a little reflection today.
Yeah, good reflection question.
Okay. I think I have to say something extra now because we're on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So don't forget to follow the podcast on Spotify or Apple. But if you want to check out this video where we do Vanna White things and it's really exciting and cool, I guess you need to subscribe to the Morris-Jenkins channel on YouTube as well, so you never miss an episode on any platform. You can also, of course, listen to the episode on YouTube as well. You don't have to be watching. And don't watch if you're driving.
Yeah, please don't.
BT dubs. All right. Have a wonderful 2 weeks until we see you again. Until then, peace, love, and easy does it.
Appreciate y'all.